Hello everyone, welcome back to Magic After Midnight. We're moving on to episode 4. The sun is slipping past its zenith. In another 30 minutes or so, it will clear the balcony above Marcia's and shine on her guest. She feels vaguely sick. It might be because she is at a deep, intrinsic level very sick, and it might be because of all that Dare has told her. "So you are a vampire," she says. "We like to be called night elves," says Dare. He's sitting on the only other piece of furniture, on a balcony, a fold-out chair that has rubber lattice. He's too big for it, and his spotless Armani suit doesn't fit the cheapness of the chair any better. A vampire conjures too many images of predators, and you're more parasites. We prefer the term symbiote, Dare says, grimacing. Marcia narrows her eyes. "You haven't exactly explained how you are symbiotic." He'd said that vampires require mammal blood for survival, but not enough to be harmful to the host, unless the host is a very small creature, like a mouse. He also did state that to thrive and be healthy, they need human blood. Not very much, he assured her, and not even consistently. Whatever nutrient they need from human blood, they apparently can store for a long time, but without access to human blood, they eventually become infertile, ill, often so depressed that they die. Or gone were the words he used to describe it. Still, a symbiotic implies some benefit to the host species. Not harming the host isn't the same thing exactly, you know. Dare's face goes blank for a moment. "I am not at liberty to divulge the benefit." He smiles tightly and gazes out at the parking lot across the street from her apartment. It might be Marcy's imagination, but she thinks he looks sad. "You can't turn into mist," she says. He shakes his head, though it would be convenient. "You don't convert anyone you bite into a vampire." He shakes his head. Marcia huffs a soft laugh. "I always thought that wouldn't work. The predator-prey relationship would never be balanced. We prefer the term we're parasites." He amends at Marcia's sharp glance, "but it works the same way." Marcia looks at her knees. She's still wearing her pajamas, and "You aren't stronger than a human, faster or able to enthrall us, and blood drawing is a consensual thing. Vampires feel a bond between themselves and their hosts, and so wouldn't want to jeopardize it." He's quiet a moment, and then he says, "That all holds true." He bows his head and steeples his fingers. "For most of us." Marcia raises her eyes. He meets their gaze. "All magical creatures, night elves, light elves, dark elves, fire itans, vanir, jotun, Ascian dwarfs, they all possess some innate magic they can do without thinking. For fire etans, it is a manipulation of fire. For all elves of all kinds, that innate ability is usually immortality." Marcia leans her head back on a chair. The word itself, well, it has a lot of weight. And then she bites back a laugh. "Forget forever. She'd just take 3 years." Dare goes on. "For the veneer, the SC and the rest, the innate ability is more individual. For some, it may be controlling fire or ice, great strength or longevity, or they might be particularly good at some craft or some trade. But all magical creatures, if they learn to harness magic, can learn to do all these things. Be strong, control fire, be faster, be charming. No turning into bats, though, Marcia asks impulsively. She's beginning to feel lightheaded. He smiles. It would be fun, but no. Marcia's brow furrows as she picks at her pyjamas. They're too big. She's lost so much weight in the last few months. Well, in our myths, vampires are sadistic and evil. Dare supplies. Marcia's breath catches, and she turns to face him. Meeting her gaze, he says, "There is some basis in that." Marcia sits up very tall in her chair. Dare sighs. There are very few vampires strong enough to walk through the realms, and moreover, it has been illegal for us to do so for nearly thousands of years, as you can imagine. The only ones that have come, in Marcia's turn to sigh, lawbreakers, powerful lawbreakers. When Elise was an infant, she became obsessed with all news of kidnappings and such alike. The network news people love to say, it could be anyone. That is technically true, but Marcia has discovered that it is a hell of a lot more likely to actually be a certain type of person. Someone who breaks the law is at the top of that list. A vampire that broke the law to get to Earth was unlikely to be a vampire who respected the laws of humans. I think, Dare says softly, I think that certain members of my species, who were used to being able not to care nor to love, they sought to kill their hosts so they could loosen that bond. Marcia's eyes blur. This is a perfectly good word to describe humans like that. He winces. I only mention this because I want to be completely honest with you. Grabbing her side, Marcia's brow furrows again. There is a gaping hole in his story. Your prince was about to bond with my daughter. Dare snorts. No. He's rash, but actually, even he wasn't about to crack a vein with someone he'd just met. Then what was he? Dare shoots her a look that says, really? Marcia sags in her chair. Ah. Just some innocent hanky-panky. She glares at him with a 16-year-old. In his defence, she misrepresented her age, and he has very little experience with humans. A 16-year-old vampire. He holds out a hand as though to indicate knee-high. You may have noticed the prince was quite upset by what transpired. Sadly, Marcia can believe Cindy misrepresented her age, and she had noticed the way the prince had turned green. She can also believe all the rest of it, and still not find his species particularly evil. No, she doesn't find them evil at all. She can readily believe a few bad apples could be responsible for all the heinous crimes attributed to a whole race. It hadn't taken many conquistadors to wipe out the Aztecs. She sighs. Not that the Aztecs were angels either. She gulps. And there is a vocal, violent minority of humans calling for a reclosing of the realms and the extermination of any magical creature that might wind up trapped here. She turns her gaze out to the packing street where people start to walk by and it bustles. So, how do you keep the strong vamp night elves away from Earth? Marcia asks. Dare stiffens in a way that seems almost defensive. But then he rubs his forehead. We actually have been studying your technology, to be honest. We Well, we believe that we wouldn't have to send anyone through. Well, obviously, except sort of modest support staff, things like that. But nobody, that's bad. Maybe the odd procession of dignitaries. You have machines now that would allow blood to be transported without chilling or chemical additives. Head bowing, he nods, as though to himself. It is, he sighs. It will be fine. There is something in his voice, something resigned. But her mind is getting too fuzzy to ask, and so she asks a question at the forefront of her thoughts. Why are you telling me all this? So you don't talk, Dare says. Too soon for her to draw away, he reaches over and takes her hand. His fingers are dry and cool. It is a fluke that he realizes the nature of night elves, and if humans know it, will make things more difficult. Marcia stares down at this man and their entwined hands, but she's too tired to pull away. And it isn't just her illness, it's also from lying. She works in an oncology department, only as their web designer. But she knows enough about cancer to realise that her recent symptoms had warned of something very bad. The scans she had just confirmed it. Now she has to tell her children and her family about what's going on. She has a meeting with a therapist right after her next oncology appointment. She'll ask her. She feels tears on the edge of her eyes. She's frightened of holding it in that long. Frightened of giving it away too. Don't hide it. Dare, she says, staring down his hands. They are large, heavy and masculine, and by comparison to her own hands, that look frail, small and very old. She seldom notices how wrinkled the skin has become around her joints. And, obviously, there's half a century change to her and the planet. How visible her veins are. Next to Dare's magical youth, she can't help but notice every single detail that she wouldn't normally. She remembers Alicia asking if she feels well. Joshua's anger at Sydney, making her take out the trash. Something will give you away in the end, and lying will make it worse. He takes her hand in both of his own and turns it over. She hears him exhale. How would I ever go about that? She's slouching in the chair, overwhelmed by life, dim, and this. She glances at him. For most of the conversation, he's maintained an air of self-assuredness that sort of belied the age he looks. But now, he doesn't look all of 28 or so. And Marcia feels older than his, centuries. Centuries indeed, maybe even millenniums actually. It could even be millenniums. She takes a deep breath, her head clearing. She worked at the oncology department as their web designer, which really means designer, coder and copy editor. She knows how to soften medical terminology, make it easy to understand and accept. It occurs to her that maybe maturity is based on expertise, but not on years. She tells him what she would say. When she's done, she feels exceptionally light. She supposes that, if you're going to die, helping save an entire race as one of your final deeds isn't a bad way to go. You think, framing it as in heritable disease, like, a blood disease, that our people are in great need of transfusions, that humans will find this acceptable, dare ask, squeezing her fingers more tightly. And it's a reasonable question, to be fair. At some point in the conversation, he leaned closer. You're in need of blood, Marcia says. It's something that we give voluntarily, and offering to trade it for tellurium or lithium are things we don't have and need for our new magic power converters and batteries. It will work out. Bless human industries and greed. It might just save your race. I'm going to leave that part here for now, guys. Thank you for listening to this part of Magic After Midnight. So, that's why they're here. They need blood. Human blood. Many blessings.